The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters. Greetings and welcome back to the Personal Safety Show. This is Marcus Melnick with Firearm Mentor and Stress 2 Logic, your host. And we're continuing the conversation about water safety. We just concluded that if you see a ring and you throw it in and there's a rope that's attached to it, make sure you hang on to the rope. That way you can help pull in the person who is in trouble.
As far as calling 911, before you said it, I already took a note that to bring your cell phone to the beach, and you can go on Amazon or there's other stores, and you can get a waterproof case for your phone. So I would highly recommend that. Now, my son did that in Israel until his friend tackled him and he lost his phone in the Jordan River. It's still there somewhere. As far as digging holes goes, we're not talking about making a little teeny sandcastle or filling up a bucket with sand. You're talking like deep, deep holes, 3, 4, 5 feet. Am I correct?
Yes, you're correct. Okay. Yeah. If your kid is standing in a hole, there's a potential danger there.
Right. Okay. Very good. So, yes, you can have fun. You can play in the sand. You can dig, just not deep.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. Yep. When people are getting buried in the sand and they're standing up just to keep their head out, we've seen all the TikToks and they're really funny where, you know, they'll have just their head out of the sand and they'll be singing a song and there's multiple people that are in that situation, but it can actually collapse your airways and make it harder for you to breathe because that sand is very, very heavy. So we're not going to try to make any TikToks or anything like that by standing in a sand hole. Definitely just stay closer to the surface as you can.
And I will tell you that I'm in suburban Chicagoland. That actually happened on my block, not with sand, though. There was a company that was doing some sewer work, and they did not, I forgot what it's called, but it's a box that they put in to prevent cave-ins. And they didn't do that. They skipped that safety step, and the dirt and the mud collapsed on this guy. We had 50 fire trucks on our street, 2 helicopters, and they couldn't recover him in time to save his life. Wow. So I'm hugely aware of that, and I know people on my block are as well. One of my fears is the health of the water, and let me explain that. In Chicago, the beaches are wonderful, except when the city of Milwaukee releases sewage into Lake Michigan. It tends to go south, and then all the beaches are closed because of E. coli. Our water, at least in South Haven, is it tested daily for bacteria and other stuff that would make someone sick?
You know, that's a really great question. I have not even asked that question yet of the city of South Haven. I know that we do have water tests for our drinking water and that kind of a thing once a month. I would assume that would be the same for the lake. But yeah, definitely check out, maybe even the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers might do something like that where they're testing the waters. But yeah, that's a really great question. I'll have to look into that one and get back to you with that answer.
Sounds good. And everyone thinks of the lake, the beach, as a summer activity. Let me tell you a story. Again, when I worked for the Glencoe Police and Fire Department, people tend, and it's a beach town, people tend to walk on water, so to speak. And I say that to be kind of funny a little bit. But they'll go out on the ice and it might not be safe. And there was a story of a German Shepherd who was being walked by his owner or her owner. I don't know what the gender of the dog was, irrelevant. And the dog fell through the ice. And my immediate boss actually went in up to his waist and saved the dog. Boy, he said it was the coldest thing he's ever felt. Can you talk about some winter water safety tips?
Yes, absolutely. So we always say stay off the piers, stay off of the ice, because here on the lake, we get what we call water volcanoes, ice volcanoes, and the water will actually come up and through where it's forming kind of this this volcano. So they're really interesting to see, and it draws a lot of people to try to go out there and look at these things, but they have holes in them and they're always moving because the water is always moving underneath of them. So if you're out there on that ice, it's very easy to slip and fall. It's very easy to get washed into one of those. And it's really, really dangerous situation. When you fall in the water, you're going to get immediate cold water shock. And that can cause the body to lose 4 times more heat than cold air. So then you're in the water, you're losing body heat rapidly, you're gasping for air, you have rapid breathing, your heart rate and your blood pressure then spike and reduce, and all of those things together also reduces your mental capacity. So you won't be able to, in that moment, on top of the panic and everything that's all of the body chemistry changes that are happening, you're not going to in that moment be able to really gather yourself to get out of that cold water. So we always say to make sure that you have the right gear on if you're going to go out ice fishing. Make sure that you're checking the thickness of the ice before you go out ice fishing, and have an emergency plan. As long as you have those things in place, you should be safer than somebody going out there without them. But again, we always try to really reiterate to people, don't go on the piers, don't go on the ice. It's really, really dangerous.
I will also opine on something. The fire departments who are close to water and in a colder environment are also conducting surface ice rescue training. I know that because I participated in it. It was kind of funny. When we did it in a swimming pool, I got right in the pool. When we did it in a body of water, I used my telephoto lens to take pictures. I was not about to step on the ice, even though I saw it was probably 6 inches thick when we actually did it. It was bitter cold outside. So how can someone contact you, get involved, make a donation, or start a chapter? What's your contact information? And if you can speak on those questions, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So you can contact us through our website at southhavenambassadors.wixsite.com/shape. You can check out our Facebook page. We are SHAPE, South Haven Ambassadors Program and Education on Facebook. Both our GoFundMe and our Venmo are linked to both of those. We also have on the website volunteer forms. We do background checks, and we also do liability waivers. Background checks are more so to check and make sure that people are safe to be around. There's kiddos out on the beach in their bathing suits, and we want to make sure that everybody is safe around our ambassadors and that they are fully vetted with those background checks to make sure that, we're not going to have people out there taking your things from your beach towel. They're not going to be out there, scoping your kids, that kind of a thing. So we absolutely run those background checks, and that is required. So if you want to be a volunteer, go to the website, grab those forms, print them out. You can always scan them and send them back to my email. And my email is southhavenambassadors@gmail.com. You can also give us a call at 269-906-7166. And we'll be happy to answer any of your questions or get you any information that you need in order to make sure that you're staying safe and making the right decisions about going to the beach prior to going to the beach. We can give you the numbers for our text alerts that the City of South Haven gives out, the buoy information. We have a lot of great resources on our website as well. We always have Great Lakes Surf Rescue Projects, does some really great water safety education videos. So we have them linked on our website. Anybody can go visit their website. It's glsrp.org. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to help them be more educated before they hit the lake.
Terrific. And for the listeners, yes, it's a volunteer organization, but everything costs money. Printing materials cost money. Background checks cost money. There's the life preserver sponsorship. That costs money to build. That's not like around here you got these little personal libraries people can borrow and take a book. And it's kind of like a little structure like that, but that costs money to build and purchase materials and the life ring and the rope and then maintenance for it. So those are the types of things that a donation would go towards. Heather, what final thoughts can you share about water safety and balancing safety with fun?
So I would just say, make sure that you're wearing your personal flotation device. We call those PFDs. When you're using recreational devices or when you're visiting the lake, definitely don't use inflatables in the big lakes. That it always does kind of pose a problem with the inflatables and the offshore winds. And always have a plan and practice that plan. So me as a mother, when my kids were little, before I even got into water safety, I would always quiz my kids before and after they got in and out of the car. So when we would get in at the house, I would say, all right, what do you know about how do you get out of a rip current? And they would have to say flip, float, follow before they got in the van. And each one, if they didn't answer it, they would have to answer a second question in order to be able to go. If they didn't answer correctly, then they had to kind of stay back with dad. And then when we got to the beach, we did the same thing. So it's definitely important that you guys have a conversation. I always say when I'm handing out my brochures, take this brochure, sit around the kitchen table and quiz your kids. What do they know? What do they not know? And the answers are in this brochure. And if they're not, then there's great resources listed in the brochure that they can then go and search for those answers. And it gives them an activity to do, but it also makes it a really fun learning experience for them too. And it solidifies this information in their brain, so that way when they go to the beach, they're going to remember this information.
Very good. Heather, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to our listeners about, I love the water, but water safety is extremely important because while everybody wants to go have fun at the beach, at a pool, at a lake, it needs to be balanced with safety so that you can go home and go back and have fun another day. Heather, thank you very much for taking the time with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and thanks for getting the word out about water safety education. It is really important.
I want my listeners to know that this is my dream, teaching people about safety. If it weren't for you, if it weren't for my listeners, I couldn't live my dream. So on behalf of my family and myself, I want to thank each and every one of you for allowing me to live my dream. And I also want to continue to live my dream, and I'm excited to continue to spread the word of safety. Recently, I began a new service as a conference keynote speaker. So if anyone would like for me to speak at future events, or if anyone knows of an introduction or would like to discuss how we can work with one another, I'd love to do just that. The keynote speaking website is www.stress2logic.com. That is STRES2logic.com. If you're aware of any conference speaking engagements where you'd like to have me speak, I'd love an introduction. You can always share my electronic business card, which is Marcus Melnick, MarcusMelnick.com. Now, back to the show. For those of you who have been listening for a while, you know that I pre-record my radio show. And then it goes to production, and we edit out certain things. We make it fit into the show's theme and timetable. So very interestingly enough, I love dealing with people, and I'm being serious. I have a sarcastic tone, but I'm not intending to be sarcastic. So I want to be very serious for a moment and tell you the type of person that Heather Johnson is. We stopped talking, or we ended the interview, and literally 17 minutes afterwards, and she forwarded me this, she sent an email to the city asking how often the lake water is tested and where can she find the information. And she forwarded this to me. And the city manager, who's Kate Hosier, said the Van Buren/Cass County Health Department tests North and South Beach approximately every 3 weeks, and the results are emailed to the city of South Haven. She's not sure if the county health department puts them on their website, but she attached results from earlier in June. And it is a letter, and this letter is from George Friday, Director of Environmental Health Division with the Van Buren-Cass District Health Department. And the letter reads, as a result of the Bathing Beach Water Quality Sampling Program, done through the Van Buren County Environmental Health Division, bathing beaches are monitored for levels of bacteria. Results of samples taken on 6/3/2024 from the bathing beach area at South Haven North Beach, located at 45 Lakeshore Drive, revealed that the surface water quality at the beach area met Michigan's water quality standards for total and/or partial body contact for recreational purposes. The specific tests results are, at the south end of the beach, it's 1 per 100 milliliters, middle of the beach, it's 3 per 100 milliliters, and north end, it's 2 per 100 milliliters, with a daily mean of 1.817 out of 100 milliliters. I have no idea what, it's a bacteria measurement, but I don't know what bacteria. The letter concludes by saying the Van Buren County Environmental Health Division will attempt to collect samples the week of June 24th, weather and personnel permitting. If you have questions concerning this correspondence, please contact me at the Hartford office with the phone number of 269-539-5503, and that letter was sent by George Friday. Now, I know in Great Britain we say we're across the pond, and that's kind of a little bit of a joke, but in Chicago we're across a smaller pond, meaning Lake Michigan, and it prompted me to do a little bit of research on when the city of Chicago tests, or how often the city of Chicago tests their water. And so I went on the ChicagoParkDistrict.com website for parks, facilities, and beaches, and I found some interesting information. There is a green flag or swimming permitted at the 12th Street and Humboldt Beach, and that's as of 6/27. I know this is going to air a couple days after that. There's a swim advisory for a ton of beaches, and there is a swim ban on Hardigan, Leon, Loyola Beach, Marion Mahoney, Griffin Beach. So these are red, yellow, and green flags, and swim conditions are updated every day at around 11 a.m. based on weather and surf conditions, and around 1:30 p.m. based on water quality conditions. Flags are updated throughout the day as needed. There's also a warning, only swim at beaches when lifeguards are on duty from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily. Swimming anywhere else along the lakefront is strictly prohibited and dangerous. And there's a nice little view of the beach. It's gorgeous. And as far as water safety goes, as far as water testing goes, the Chicago Park District samples the beaches 7 days a week, starting the Friday of Memorial Day weekend until Labor Day. And the samples are collected between sunrise and 8:30 a.m. The Chicago Park District and the University of Illinois at Chicago School of Public Health partnered to expand water quality testing to utilize a new rapid testing method developed by the United States EPA. The rapid testing method measures the levels of bacterial DNA in beach water. Traditional culture-based method provides results after 18 to 24 hours, but the rapid test provides results within 3 to 4 hours, which is great because when I was a kid, you wouldn't know if the water was unsafe until after you've swam in it, which is kind of gross. But what do they test for? They test for Enterococci bacteria, which is not harmful in and of itself and is naturally occurring, but the bacteria is an indicator of the presence of other pathogens that could make you sick. The EPA beach policy recommends notifying the public when the Enterococci bacteria levels are above the federal water quality beach action value, or BAV, which is 1,000 CCE. I have no idea what that means. The standard is used at beaches throughout the Great Lakes region. So there's a swim advisory with a yellow flag if there are water quality advisories. That's how you know. If it's yellow, you're taking a risk. So I'm really happy to have had this opportunity to talk about the safety in water sports and playing and all this great stuff, because I grew up going to the Evanston beaches in the morning because they opened in the morning, and then I would go to the Skokie pools, Devonshire's pool or Oakton pool, in the afternoon with my mother. She was a school teacher, and that was our summer activity. It revolved around water, unless, of course, it rained. So with that said, I'm very grateful to Heather Johnson for actually taking the time not only to talk to us and the listeners about safety, but to actually follow up within minutes of an I don't know answer. And in my world, I don't know is always okay. She followed up immediately. I just snapped my fingers. I don't know if you heard that on the radio, but it was absolutely fantastic. And if you are watching this on my YouTube page, I will have the links and email addresses and phone numbers all listed there because it was done pretty quickly. And we can actually go forward and you can contact them. It would be really cool if someone on this side of the lake was interested in the SHAPE program and started something. I think there is a definite need. With that said, you heard my commercial about speaking at various events, and in the last week I've had 3 speaking opportunities. Two of them were presentations on overcoming the hot stress mess or overcoming the human stress response in non-dangerous and business interactions. And I spoke at the Northbrook Chamber of Commerce at it's called Biz Hub, but basically it's a brown lunch and learn. And then at the International Association of Business Communicators, downtown Chicago. So at the International Association of Business Communicators, or IABC, is a group of people who do communications internally for large companies. They're marketing. Some are customer-facing. Some are employee-facing. It was a great honor. Now, the funny thing is, when I was teaching downtown, the sound did not work from my computer. And instead of getting up and all frustrated in front of people, and this has happened before, if you've seen my TEDx, it happened. I walked down on the stage and the crew forgot to give me the remote clicker to advance slides. So you got to be cool under pressure. And I basically narrated the videos. The videos I had were entertaining and educational at the same time. The third speaking engagement, it was how to overcome the human stress response when faced with anti-Semitism. And I gave that presentation at Congregation Beth Judea in Long Grove. I was very honored to do that. If you have a need in your organization, if there's a speaking opportunity coming up, I would absolutely love to have a conversation with you about how I can present at your event. And we can discuss rates when you call. Rates are dependent upon location, travel, group size, content. There's a bunch of variables, but I'm usually able to work within people's budgets. I'm going to switch gears, and for the rest of the show, I want to talk about a recent Supreme Court ruling. About a week and a half ago, the Supreme Court upheld a federal law that bans people subject to domestic violence restraining orders from owning a firearm. And it was an 8-1 decision in United States versus Rahimi. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the opinion that, quote, in our nation's firearm laws have included provisions preventing individuals who threaten physical harm to others from misusing firearms. When an individual has been found by a court to pose a credible threat to the physical safety of another, that individual may be temporarily disarmed, consistent with the Second Amendment, Roberts wrote. Justice Clarence Thomas, who is an advocate of the Second Amendment, dissented. Thomas argued that the question before the court was not if someone can have their firearms taken away under the Second Amendment, but instead whether the, quote, government can strip the Second Amendment right of anyone subject to a protective order, even if he has never been accused or convicted of a crime. It cannot, end quote. The White House and gun safety advocates welcomed the long-awaited decision as a major victory. No one who has been abused should have to worry about their abuser getting a gun, said President Joe Biden. As a result of today's ruling, survivors of domestic violence and their families will still be able to count on critical protections, just as they have for the past 3 decades. This was a first major test of the 2022 New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin that struck down in New York that limited carrying firearms in the open in a decision from the High Court that greatly expanded gun rights. Justice Thomas wrote that decision. In 2019, here's the story. Rahimi assaulted his girlfriend in Arlington, Texas, and threatened to shoot her if she told anyone, according to the Department of Justice. That led to a restraining order that suspended his handgun license and prohibited him from possessing firearms. But Rahimi did not adhere to that order and threatened another woman with a gun, and 2 months later opened fire in public 5 times. J. Matthew Wright, a federal public defender in North Texas who argued for his client Rahimi, declined to comment on the decision. I agree with the Supreme Court. I agree with President Biden. You're not going to hear me say that often. This is one of those things where I could actually understand President Biden. Very interesting. I agree if somebody is prone to violence, they should not have a firearm. Now, interestingly enough, I got contacted a couple weeks ago by a gentleman, only gave me his first name, and he wanted to take an 8-hour safety course. Wonderful. What's the reasoning for it? What would you like to accomplish with it? I don't know. It's what they told me. Who told you? Oh, that's the part of the deal I got from the court. So I said, okay, well, can you send me the court order? Because I want to make sure that my curriculum will satisfy the court order. I really was curious because if it was someone who was generally unsafe and they had to take so many hours of safety training but never put anyone in any danger, that's different than reckless discharge of a firearm and being ordered to take not a concealed carry, but a safety class. So, very interesting stuff. The guy never emailed me. I probably would have turned him down as a client because I do that from time to time. I will get some interesting information and it rules them out from gun ownership or from a safety class. With that said, I hope everybody has a happy 4th of July, spending it with your families. I would love for you to tune in next week when we're going to talk to attorney Fred Nickel on how to restore firearm rights once they've been taken away. Stay safe, everyone. Have a happy Independence Day. We have monthly concealed carry license CCL classes in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. Dates can be seen at firearmmentor.com/classes. If you have a question, we can be reached at www.firearmmentorcard.com. That is our electronic business card, has all of our contact information and links in it. It's the easiest way to get a hold of us. Until next time, stay safe out there, and I'll see you at the shooting range. This is Marcus Melnick from Firearm Mentor signing off. The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters.